After a collision, often the damage you see on your vehicle is only part of the story. A cracked bumper, a dent on your door might only be telling a little part of the story. And once you get it into an Autobody shop, they'll tell you that there's more damage under the surface, which is why it's important to get your vehicle to an Autobody shop before you drive away after that accident. Hi, everybody. My name is Alana, and I'm sitting down today with Chris from Traphouse Automotive in Edmonton, talking about what to do after you've been in a car accident. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hi, good, thanks.
Excellent. I really loved the last topic that we talked about. I centered a little bit more about bumpers and what they're hiding. Today, we're talking about just general collision. Is that something that you see a lot of at Traphouse?
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Excellent. Are most people really surprised that it just looks like a little bump and there's more damage?
Yes, that can happen. It'll be a little bigger than anticipated.
Excellent. And are you enjoying some of the less rainy weather that we're having?
Yes, finally a break in the rain.
I think it's been almost every single time we've met, it's been raining, except twice.
Pretty close, yep.
Well, I'm hoping that the rain stays away today. I have a lot of outside plans.
That's good.
Okay. All right. The first question that I have, how can a vehicle owner tell if the damage is purely cosmetic?
Well, I think everybody might have different opinions on what's cosmetic, but I think depending on where the damage is, if your doors still operate correctly, if they seem like they're kind of sealed up still, so you don't have like a wind noise or water leaking, or if your trunk or hood still open and close, it's just kind of more of like a general dent that's not, impeding a door from opening, or maybe your hood doesn't open anymore. That kind of thing is probably more cosmetic.
Okay. That's good to know. Is it generally a good idea to bring in a vehicle to Traphouse if it looks cosmetic? Do you think it's always just err on the side of caution?
I mean, it's always safe. Like, you could always, depending on where you're located, you could always email me and I can take a look and see if it's something I can figure out from pictures, or if I think maybe there's something a little more hidden. So we can always start with some pictures in an email and go from there.
Can it look like minor damage but be significant?
Yep. We see that a lot, where it doesn't look too big of a deal, but it can be a little deeper, like into the vehicle than anticipated.
Excellent. What about low speed collisions? Are those also something that need to get looked at? If your vehicle has some damage, then you're like, oh, it was just a really slow collision. There's nothing bad here.
Well, I think even at low speeds, like, these vehicles are thousands of pounds. So to get them to stop from running into each other doesn't necessarily mean like not much happens at low speed, right? So things can bend and break more than you'd think at low speeds. But I would say if you check if it hit a wheel or a tire, make sure your wheels are still pointing straight.
Right.
That'd be really important. Make sure your lights still work, that kind of thing. So you're not, like, if those things are wrong, it might be a better idea to tow it. But if the wheels are still all pointing in relatively the same direction, it feels like it drives fine, your lights are still working, didn't lose a mirror, that kind of thing.
Right.
It should still be drivable. Excellent.
And also, what does low speed mean?
Exactly.
Someone's like, well, I was only going 20 kilometers, but when you're both going 20,
that's and several thousand pounds coming to a dead stop.
Yeah.
It's a lot of energy being passed from one vehicle to the other. So
excellent. Yeah, I think I would just rather send an email, upload my picture to your website and be like, hey, Chris, like, is this something to worry about? Just for my peace of mind.
Yep.
My next question is, can most dents be repaired without actually needing to replace a panel?
I would say a lot of the time we're repairing dents. It kind of depends on where it is, because maybe the fenders are rather affordable and it's hardly worth fixing. Maybe the part doesn't exist anymore on certain vehicles, so you have to fix it or something like that. So I think a lot of the time, yes, we're fixing them without replacing them, but it really kind of depends on the kind of vehicle, where on the fender it is, because maybe one small dent in one spot is easier to fix than something right on the edge or something like that. So a lot of the time we are repairing the panels, but it kind of really comes down to every situation's a little different.
Right. Is it safe to drive a vehicle that has a loose panel?
I would say that you should probably figure out how to fasten it before driving it around too much. I wouldn't say you'd normally see something like a fender or a door come loose. It'd usually be a bumper, maybe a headlight come loose. Probably the most common, especially in our climate with winters, would be like the splash shield underneath coming loose. That can start to drag. So I think it's always good to, if you can zip tie it up at least to kind of get it off the ground. That's always a good idea.
Yeah, that's something I'm seeing a lot more lately. Vehicles driving around with zip ties, holding pieces together.
Yes. Yeah.
And that wasn't so common a few years ago. I think zip ties are just getting bigger and stronger.
Maybe parts are getting more and more expensive. It's easier to just zip tie them out of the way for now.
Awesome. So what happens when a panel is too damaged to repair?
Well, then we'd replace it. That'd be typical for, call it a fender. Maybe somebody got bumped in the front corner, took out a headlight bumper and a fender. So we replace parts all of the time, rather maybe it's rust too. Maybe it's got a little too much rust that's a little beyond patching, and we replace a quarter panel, stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
And does it add much more time to the repair if you have to replace it versus repair it? What's the bigger?
Well, again, it depends on the price of the part, because sometimes it's easier and more cost effective to replace a part.
Okay.
Or say a fender's $300, and if it's going to take you more than 3 hours to fix, it might start to be more worth to replace it.
Right.
So you kind of got to keep that in mind also.
And you're an OEM shop, correct?
We run as many OEM parts as we can.
Perfect.
Obviously the customer maybe doesn't always want that. So sometimes we're running aftermarket or used parts, but we really try to push OEM as much as we can.
Right. And that's a conversation you'll have with a customer before you start the work.
Right. Yep.
Excellent. And are there any reasons why people don't want OEM?
I think it's probably usually a price thing, because they will be typically worth more. But it also depends, like sometimes parts availability, depending on what you're doing. Maybe you have an older truck that you're trying to restore, and maybe those OEM parts aren't available anymore. So we're kind of working with what we got, right?
Excellent.
So we try to push that the OEM is going to be best, of course, but that's not always the option. So sometimes you have to work with what we have.
So how do Autobody shops restore the shape of a replaced panel?
That's the name of the game, I guess. That's the toolbox full of tools of different shaped hammers and dollies and pry tools and whatnot, and different shop equipment to get the dent fixed. So I think most of the time it's just a little bit of hammer and dolly work. If you reach the back and hammer it straight, and sometimes it requires a little more pulling and different shop tools, but it just kind of comes down mostly just hammer and dolly work and sanding back and feathering back the old paint and some body work and priming, and then you're into paint.
Excellent. It's like how to get that metal to bend to your will.
Right. Yep. That's the name of the game.
Excellent. And to do that in a way that makes it look seamless. And I'm always just impressed with the artistry. Like, honestly, your technicians at Traphouse, they are not just like shop workers, they're magicians, because I've seen so many of the pictures where they're doing the Autobody work, and just to make it look like nothing happened, it's truly an art form. I really believe that.
A bit of sculpting, I suppose. Yes.
Yeah. It's not easy to bend all of that metal into shape, and to do it in such a way where it looks perfect. That's amazing. And I think that's one of the reasons why you're so popular and people like to come to Traphouse Automotive in Edmonton, is because you're very good at what you do. You take a lot of pride in it. Yeah,
it's a good team. We got a good team. It's all team effort. Not one person is making it all happen. So it's a good team effort from everybody for sure.
That's great. Yeah. When you love what you do, it's a little bit easier.
Yep. Got a bunch of car guys So it's
Nice.
works pretty well.
Excellent. What about frame straightening? Is that something that often is needed after a collision? And can you do that?
I think it kind of depends on exactly what kind of vehicle. If it's like truck related frame straightening, we stay out of it. Pretty heavy duty equipment. But a lot of unibody styled vehicles, maybe a rebar was shifted over and we can tie it down and do light pulls on that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Or rocker repair sometimes involves pulling, so we can do general sheet metal pulls and stuff.
Okay.
When it comes to like the heavy duty frame straightening on bigger trucks or whatever, we kind of tend to avoid that stuff. And usually if you're having to straighten out some of these unibody cars, it usually suggests it might be written off anyway, might be deemed salvage. So we don't get into it too much.
Right. Yeah. If it needs so much straightening, it's probably not worth fixing.
That's right. Yeah.
Excellent. And do you see a lot of vehicles that come in, especially if it's like a low impact collision or a low speed collision, that's needed, or is that not typically a necessary thing?
I would say that if you got, if front end collision, the rebar is holding kind of like both the frame rails one way and they might end up swaying one way or another. So we end up usually kind of adjusting that a little bit to fit new rebars and make sure your hood lines up and your rad support all line up, that kind of thing. Right. If you got rear ended, sometimes lightly, I suppose, it might need a little pull here and there, but once you kind of start seeing crumples and, stuff like that, anything kind of past the rear panel of the vehicle, it's usually you start kind of shying away from repairs like that.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Not that it can't be done. It's just something that we're not specializing in.
Right.
So some shops might have the capacity. We just kind of tend to avoid those ones. And
how will the car look after you're done?
I guess that's the whole goal is to make it look seamless and invisible. So certain things we do is, say if you replaced a headlight on one side and now your other one looks weathered, we tried to polish that to make them match, or maybe the adjacent panel isn't as shiny as the new paint, of course. So we try to kind of like blend the polish out into panels that weren't painted, just to kind of make it not look like, oh, this is my car and this is new paint. Try to make that not so obvious, right? So
right. Yeah. And I think there's a difference in fixing the panel and making it look exactly like the part that it's replacing, but also once it's painted, once the car is put back together, you do excellent work in making sure that it looks amazing. I know we were talking just before we started filming today about the vehicle that it was white when it came in and you fixed it and you painted it gray and you were like, I still don't like this.
Yeah.
And what did you do? What did you do with that one?
We ended up sanding it back down and adding a pearl to it. So it was like a tri-stage finish. So just kind of like has a bit of a flip flop depending on the light.
I love that. It looks so impressive. And I'm like, that's the kind of thing that I see. I'm like, oh, I want that for my vehicle. Like, I love my lime green, but lime green with a fun shift might be
it's
even
doable.
more fancy.
Yeah, it's doable.
Excellent. And that's what I love. It's not just about fixing the repair. Okay, it's done. It's good. See you later. You really care about making the vehicle look good when the client comes to pick it up. There's a lot of pride in that.
Yeah. Like I said, a lot of guys, of the team are just trying to go think a little further, right? Like I said, polishing the other headlight or polishing the tail light or whatever it kind of takes to kind of make it look a little more invisible that we were there.
Perfect. I love that. So, well, thank you so much for explaining more about the process for me. What have you got going on today?
Just more shop cleanup and maybe a little bit of work set up for Monday, that kind of thing.
That sounds great. I know that you have a great website. Is that the best way for people to submit quote requests to you? I
think so. Yeah. When I can email and see some pictures kind of on the screen. Text messages tend to be harder to manage, harder to look for. So when you email, I have your name and phone number and email and all that and some pictures, that's probably the best way. Wonderful. And that website is www.traphouse.ca.
If you have any questions about your vehicle, you can submit your pictures, put your information and any questions that you might have, and Chris will get back to you. Excellent. Well, that's all the questions I have today. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Absolutely.